MMA Boxing Talk here. I just wanted to put out a video on Khabib Nurmagomedov. I came across a very interesting video this morning. Um, Shout out to MMA Quick Hits. They got like 15,000 subscribers. He puts out a ton of videos. I don't always agree with everything he says, but I do like hearing his opinion. He's brutally honest, and I agree with most of what he says. But he put out a video about Khabib and his record being in question. Khabib is 24-0, and one thing I've noticed with casual MMA fans and boxing casual fans is that fans seem to get mesmerized by an undefeated record. You know, they're mesmerized by this padded record that Khabib holds. He's 24-0. He's only 8-0 in the UFC, and that's really all that matters. He's 8-0 in the UFC, and in the UFC, he's only beat two ranked opponents. RDA was ranked number 5 when he beat him, and Michael Johnson ranked number 6. Pat Healy, I don't count. Pat Healy was ranked number 10. He had no UFC fights previous to that. I don't really count that, but if you want to count Pat Healy, slide him in. He was number 10. But before that, Khabib had 16 fights over in Russia. 16. And MMA Quick Hits found all of those fighters and their records at that time. And he made it a list. So I'm going to read you the list. And these are all Khabib's opponents in order and their record when they fought Khabib. And let me tell you, the opponents that Khabib fought over in Russia, his first 16 fights, nothing to write home about. Nothing to write home about. Atrocious records. Like, no wonder he went undefeated. So, Khabib's first opponent was 0-0. That's understandable. It's your first fight. His second fight, the opponent was 0-4. That was his record, 0-4. Third fight, he fought a guy 1-0. Fourth fight, 2-0. Then he fought a guy who was 0-0, had no fights. He fought a guy who was 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, 4-3, 4-1, 12-9, 0-2, 1-1, 4-3, 0-0, and his last fight before the UFC was 27-22. Now, someone might say, "Oh well, he's had over 40. That last guy had over 40 fights. He's got a lot of experience." If you think so, 27 wins, 22 losses, not impressive at all. But I mean, look at all these records I just named: 0-0, 0-4, 1-0, 2-0, 0-0, 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, 4-1. That's the best guy he fought. 0-2, 1-1, 0-0, 4-3. I mean, these aren't very accomplished fighters he's fighting. You know what I mean? This is a padded record, and I always knew that Khabib only had eight fights in the UFC, and the fights before that in Russia, they don't. You can't. It's not like they're all. It's not like he had 16 wins in the UFC. 16 wins over in Russia is not like having 16 wins in the UFC. And casual fans, they just get mesmerized, and they can't get over the fact that he's undefeated. But they don't understand, and it's just proof that those are the people that don't really know shit about MMA, and then they'll say, well, oh, you're not a real fan of MMA if you think Khabib's style is boring. Yeah, I do think his style is boring. It is what it is. He's allowed to fight that way, but I don't give a shit. Don't try to tell me I don't know nothing about MMA because I think Khabib's style is boring. I mean, he trips guys, holds them down, and tries to ground and pound them. Sometimes he gets successful with the ground and pound, but for the most part, he's been a decision machine in the UFC. But I mean, just the record that he had before the UFC is the fighters that he fought were a bunch of nobodies, even nobodies in Russia. So, and then he comes to the UFC, and he beats two legit ranked opponents. If it wasn't for all this success RDA had, after Khabib beat RDA, Khabib was on the shelf for 2.5 fucking years. He didn't do nothing. He didn't earn nothing. But he beat RDA. And RDA, after that loss, went on a fucking tear and became the champion and was on a vicious tear. And that's how Khabib became the #1 contender, because of all the success RDA had. And basically Khabib piggybacked all the success RDA had. Khabib fans are the funniest. They use MMA math more than anyone else. Khabib fans love MMA math. They love the triangle theory. And that's fucking a horrible theory. It doesn't work. And that is, oh, well, Khabib beat RDA, and RDA was the champ for a little bit, so that means Khabib would have beat everyone RDA beat. No, that's not how it works. Styles make fights. Every fight is different. Another example, Khabib fans, so not educated. They love their MMA math. They say, oh, well, Khabib doesn't have to fight Tony. Tony lost to Michael Johnson, and Khabib just beat Michael Johnson. That doesn't work. Tony Ferguson, for one, had a broken arm in that fight. Still finished it off, and Johnson couldn't finish him, even with Tony having a broken arm. Still finished the fight. They fought 4 years ago. Tony's a completely different fighter now. 4 years ago is ages and ages in MMA. In the MMA world, it's always evolving. 4 years ago means nothing. And let's be honest here. Khabib has a 3-round win over RDA. Ferguson has a 5-round win over RDA. I really do think those two need to fight, and the winner gets to fight Conor. Because Conor's taking a break till May anyway. You know? And, yeah, so it is what it is. But I just want to put out a video talking about Khabib's, the opponents he fought, and what their records were before the UFC. And not impressive. Not impressive at all. I knew he had a padded record. This just proves it that much more. Because his reign, his tenure in the UFC has not been that impressive. And let's not forget, 2 fights. He's had 2 fights in the last 31 months. And this guy deserves a title shot, really? The sense of entitlement that Khabib has is absolutely disgusting. I get it, your butt hurt. The UFC gave you an offer, and they took it off the table. You were used as a pawn. It's just business. Get over it. It's harsh, but it's the truth. That's it for this one. If you liked the video, subscribe. Check me out on Twitter at MMA Boxing Talk 1. Peace.